Hello everyone. Before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment saying where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories like this. Now let's begin. I've been driving for Uber for almost 3 years now. At first, it was just something I did on weekends to make extra money. But after I lost my office job, it became my full-time routine. Most nights, my life is pretty simple. I make coffee around 8 p.m., kiss my wife goodbye, and head out with a full tank of gas and a clean car. There's something calm about driving at night. The city feels different, quieter, softer. The street lights reflect off the wet pavement like long yellow lines stretching into the dark. Sometimes there's a faint smell of rain in the air, mixed with gasoline and fast food from late-night drive-thrus. The radio stays low, just enough to fill the silence between rides. Most passengers are normal people. College students going home from parties. Nurses finishing long shifts. Couples arguing in the back seat, thinking I can't hear them. It's all predictable. Safe. Even boring sometimes. That night started like any other Tuesday. Nothing special. I remember thinking it would be an easy shift. A few short rides. Maybe a good tip or two. I had no idea that before sunrise, I would be questioning whether I should ever drive again. My first few rides that night were completely normal. A bartender heading home. A quiet guy who smelled like cigarettes and didn't say a word the whole trip. Nothing unusual. Around 1:30 a.m., things started slowing down. The streets emptied out and the city felt hollow. That's when I got a ride request from a part of town I didn't usually drive to. It was an older neighborhood, mostly small houses and narrow streets with broken sidewalks. I almost declined it. The pickup rating was new, no stars, no profile picture. Just a name, Aaron. I told myself everyone has to start somewhere. When I pulled up to the address, it was darker than the rest of the block. The street light in front of the house was flickering, buzzing softly. The house itself looked normal, white paint, small porch, curtains drawn. No movement inside. I tapped, I've arrived. 1 minute passed. Then 2. I checked the app. It still said the rider was on the way. I looked around. No one on the sidewalk. No cars pulling up. Just the hum of my engine and that annoying buzz from the streetlight. Then my phone chimed. The rider had changed the pickup location. It was now a few houses down. Same street. I frowned but slowly rolled forward. Maybe they were at a neighbor's place. I stopped again. Another dark house. No lights on. No one was outside. Before I could even think, the pickup location changed again. This time it was behind me. I felt a small knot form in my stomach. I turned around in my seat, checking my mirrors. The street was empty. Completely empty. Probably just bad GPS, I muttered to myself. But it kept happening. Each time I moved, the pickup point shifted slightly, across the street, back up the block, near the corner. Always close. Always just out of reach. It felt like someone was watching me move, and adjusting. I thought about canceling. My finger hovered over the button. But something stopped me. Pride, maybe. Or curiosity. Then my phone vibrated again. A message from the rider. I'm right behind you. My heart skipped. I looked in the rearview mirror, so fast my neck hurt. The back seat was empty. I was alone. I froze. My eyes stayed locked on the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. I was sure of it. I had cleaned the car before leaving home. No bags. No shadows. No one is hiding. My phone buzzed again. I can see you. My chest tightened. I quickly locked the doors, even though they were probably already locked. I checked anyway. Click. 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 My hands were shaking. I looked out the side mirrors. The street was still dead. No footsteps. No doors opening. No one was standing on the sidewalk. Then, a loud knock. Not on the window. On the trunk. I jumped so hard I hit my knee on the steering wheel. Another knock. Slower this time. Deliberate. Someone was behind my car. I didn't want to look. But I had to. I leaned forward, adjusting the side mirror to angle it toward the back. All I could see was the dark shape of the road and the reflection of my own taillights glowing red. Then something moved. A shadow. Low to the ground. Close to the trunk. I sucked in a breath and threw the car into drive without thinking. The tires screeched as I pulled forward. I didn't check properly. I didn't care. I just needed distance. As I sped down the street, my phone chimed again. Why are you leaving? My thoughts were racing. This wasn't a GPS glitch. This wasn't some confused passenger. This was intentional. I glanced at the back seat again. For a split second, I thought I saw something. A shape. A darker darkness in the corner. I slammed the brakes and twisted around, but I could feel it now. Nothing. I wasn't alone anymore. My phone rang. Not a notification. Not a message. An actual call. From the rider. My hands were slick with sweat as I stared at the screen. Aaron was calling me. I should have declined it. I don't know why I answered. I put it on speaker. For a second, there was only silence. Then I heard breathing. Slow. Calm. Too close. I told you, a man's voice whispered. I'm right behind you. At that exact moment, something pressed down on the back of my car. The suspension dipped slightly, like someone had just put their full weight on the trunk. I heard a dragging sound. Metal creaking. He wasn't inside the car. He was on it. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I swerved the wheel, trying to shake whatever was back there. The car fishtailed slightly. Another loud thud hit the roof this time. He was climbing. The breathing on the phone got louder, mixed with a quiet laugh. You shouldn't have moved, he said. I screamed without realizing it. I hit the brakes as hard as I could. There was a heavy slam against the windshield. For one horrifying second, a face was inches from mine. Pale. Smiling. Eyes wide and unblinking. Then the body rolled off the hood and disappeared into the dark street behind me. The call ended, and the ride was still active. I didn't go back. I don't even remember how fast I was driving when I finally reached the main road. The lights, the traffic, the late-night gas stations. I've never felt so relieved to see something normal in my life. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I pulled into a crowded convenience store parking lot and just sat there, engine running, doors locked, staring at my reflection in the windshield. The ride was still active. Same name, same blank profile, same pickup street. I ended it. My finger hovered for a second before I finally hit cancel. Almost immediately, my rating dropped. 1 star. Then my phone buzzed again. A message. You left me. I felt cold all over. I blocked the rider. Reported the account. Told Uber what happened. They said they would investigate. A few days later, I received an email saying they couldn't find anything unusual about the account. No record of suspicious activity. No history of location changes. According to them, the pickup pin never moved. I stopped driving nights after that. Eventually, I stopped driving altogether. But sometimes, when I'm lying in bed and the house is completely quiet, my phone will light up on the nightstand. No ringtone. No vibration. Just the screen turning on. And for a split second, I swear I see a notification preview. Ride request from Aaron. Right behind you. I don't usually drive late mornings, but that day I needed the extra money. My wife had a dentist appointment coming up, and our rent had just gone up again. So I logged into Uber around 10 a.m., thinking airport runs would be easy and calm. Day shifts feel safer. The sun is out. Traffic is steady. People seem normal. I remember the smell of fresh coffee in my cup holder and the warm air coming through the window. The city looked ordinary, grocery stores busy, kids walking home from school, construction workers yelling over loud machines. Nothing felt strange. Nothing felt dangerous. I got a ride request from a woman named Lena. 5-star rating. That always makes you relax a little. The pickup was at a small apartment complex I'd been to before. Beige walls. Small balconies. Laundry hanging over railings. Completely normal. When I pulled up, she was already outside. Mid-30s maybe. Long dark hair. Oversized sunglasses. She smiled as she got in the back seat. Thank you for coming so fast, she said softly. Her voice was calm. Polite. I told her no problem and started the ride. It felt like just another quiet trip across town. I had no idea it would be the last normal conversation I'd have for hours. At first, everything was fine. She gave me a destination about 20 minutes away. A residential neighborhood on the edge of the city. We drove in silence for a few minutes, just the sound of traffic and the low hum of the AC. Then she asked, "Do you ever feel like someone's following you?" It caught me off guard. I laughed lightly. In traffic? All the time. She didn't laugh back. I mean, really following you, she said. Like for days. I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Her sunglasses were still on, even though we were in full daylight. I couldn't see her eyes. I think that would be hard not to notice, I replied. She nodded slowly. Then she turned and looked out her window. A few minutes later, she asked me to turn off the main road. That's not the fastest way. I said, checking the GPS. I know, she replied quickly. I just don't like being on big roads. Her tone had changed slightly. Still calm, but firmer. I followed her directions. The streets got narrower. Less traffic. Fewer people. After about 5 minutes, she leaned forward slightly. Can you make 3 right turns? She asked. I frowned. 3 right turns? Yes. I hesitated but did it. Right. 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 We ended up on the same street. My stomach tightened. She slowly leaned back into her seat. Okay, she whispered. We're not being followed. A chill went through me. I hadn't seen any car tailing us. No one seemed interested in us at all. But she seemed convinced. Then I noticed something strange. The destination on my app had changed. It was now much farther away, almost 40 minutes out. A wooded area outside city limits. I didn't hear her change it. Did you update the address? I asked carefully. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she said, Do you trust me? That's when I started to feel it. That quiet pressure in your chest. Something wasn't right. And I wasn't sure if she was afraid of someone else, or if I should be afraid of her. I can't take you that far without updating the fare, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She slowly removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. Not from crying, from lack of sleep. You have to, she said. He knows where I live. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Who? She leaned forward suddenly, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Sweet. Too strong. My husband. The word hung in the air. He tracks my phone, she continued. That's why I needed you to do the turns. To make sure. My mind was racing. This was getting complicated. Personal. Dangerous. Ma'am, if you're in trouble, we can go to a police station, I suggested. No, she snapped, louder than before. I flinched. She quickly lowered her voice again. You don't understand. He's a cop. My heart dropped. At that exact moment, I noticed a black SUV turn onto the street behind us. It kept a steady distance. Maybe a coincidence. Maybe not. She saw it too. That's him, she whispered. The SUV stayed behind us through 2 turns. My breathing became shallow. I checked my mirrors constantly. The SUV's windows were tinted. I couldn't see inside. Drive, she urged. Don't stop. The wooded area on the GPS was getting closer. The SUV was still there. That's when I realized I had made a mistake. I should have ended the ride when things first felt wrong. Now I was in the middle of something I didn't understand. And I wasn't sure who the real threat was. We reached the edge of the woods. The road became narrow. No houses. No other cars. The SUV suddenly sped up. It pulled in front of us and slammed on the brakes. I barely stopped in time. Don't stop, she screamed. But it was too late. The driver's door of the SUV opened. A man stepped out. Plain clothes. Tall. Calm. He walked toward my window slowly. She started shaking. That's him, she whispered again. Don't let him take me. The man knocked on my window. I didn't roll it down. He held up something. A badge. Police. My brain felt like it split in half. The woman in my back seat started crying. He's lying, she shouted. He lies about everything. The officer's expression didn't change. He gestured for me to lower the window. I cracked it slightly. Sir, he said evenly, that woman filed a missing persons report on herself 2 days ago. She's been harassing drivers and claiming I'm following her. She needs medical help. My heart pounded in my ears. Behind me, she started laughing, soft at first, then louder. See, she said, he always makes me look crazy. I didn't know who to believe, but I knew one thing. I was trapped between them. More police cars arrived within minutes. I stepped out of my car slowly, hands visible, feeling like I had done something wrong even though I hadn't. They spoke to her gently, calmly. She went from crying to calm, to smiling, like nothing had happened. They placed her in the back of a patrol car without handcuffs. The man who claimed to be her husband stayed quiet the entire time. Before they drove away, she looked at me through the police car window and smiled. Not scared, not relieved, satisfied. Later, I found out from another officer that she had done this before. Multiple drivers. Different stories each time. Sometimes it was a stalker. Sometimes a kidnapper. Sometimes a secret organization watches her. She always changed the destination to isolated places. Always tested the driver first. I asked what she would have done if the police hadn't shown up. The officer didn't answer directly. He just said, "You were lucky. I still drive during the day sometimes. But whenever a passenger asks me to take 3 right turns, I canceled the ride, because I still don't know who was telling the truth that day, and I'm not sure I want to find out. I usually avoid airport pickups after midnight. They take too long, and most passengers are exhausted and silent. But that night, business was slow, and I had already been driving for 3 hours with barely any decent fares. So when the airport ride popped up, I accepted it. It was close to 12:45 a.m. The sky was clear, but the air felt heavy, like rain had passed earlier. The roads were still slightly wet, reflecting the orange glow of streetlights. My car smelled faintly of the pine-scented air freshener I had just replaced that evening. The airport pickup zone was half empty. A few taxis lined up, a couple arguing near the entrance, luggage wheels scraping across concrete. Normal sounds, normal night. The rider's name was Daniel. 5-star rating. Account active for 4 years. That always makes you feel comfortable. I pulled up to the curb. A tall man in a gray hoodie and baseball cap approached my car. He didn't have any luggage. That struck me as a little strange, but not strange enough to question. He opened the back door and got in quietly. "Long night?" I asked casually. "Something like that," he replied. His voice was calm. "Low." The ride destination was about 30 minutes away. A residential address on the opposite side of the city. It felt like a simple airport drop-off in reverse. I started the trip, and for the first 10 minutes, everything felt completely normal. For the first few minutes, he didn't say anything. That's normal after airport pickups. People are tired, on their phones, half asleep. But something started to bother me. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't looking out the window either. In the rearview mirror, I could see him sitting perfectly still, hands resting on his knees, head slightly tilted forward, just watching. Every time our eyes almost met in the mirror, he would look down. I turned the radio on quietly to break the silence. Some late-night talk shows filled the car with low voices. He reached forward slightly. "Can you turn that off?" His tone wasn't rude, but it wasn't friendly either. "Sure," I said, switching it off. The car went silent again. Too silent. After about 10 minutes, I noticed something odd on the app. The route had changed. The destination was still the same address, but the navigation had rerouted us off the highway and onto a darker side road that ran parallel to the river. That road is shorter, but almost no one uses it at night. "Is this okay?" I asked, glancing at him. "It's taking us off the main road." "That's fine," he said immediately. "I prefer quiet roads." There was something about the way he said it, like he had been waiting for that moment. We exited the highway. The street lights became fewer. The buildings disappeared. Trees lined both sides of the road now, their branches hanging low and dark. The river ran somewhere to our left. I couldn't see it, but I could smell the damp air. Then I noticed something else. His reflection in the mirror didn't move naturally with the car. At first, I thought it was just the angle, but when I hit a small bump in the road, my head jerked slightly. He didn't. He stayed perfectly still. I swallowed. Maybe he was just steady. Maybe I was imagining things. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. It wasn't from Uber. It was a text message. From an unknown number. "Don't take the river road." My chest tightened. I didn't recognize the number. Another message came in. "He's not a passenger." I felt the blood drain from my face. I didn't tell him about the messages. I didn't react. But my hands tightened around the steering wheel. Because I had a sudden, terrible feeling that whoever sent that text knew exactly where I was. My heart started pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. I kept my eyes on the road. "Don't react. Don't panic." Another text came in. "Check your back seat." My breathing turned shallow. Slowly, I looked into the rearview mirror. He was still there. Same position. Same stillness. But now he was smiling. Not wide. Not obvious. Just enough. I quickly looked back at the road. This was insane. Someone was messing with me. Maybe a prank. Maybe a hacker. Then the Uber app glitched. The passenger name disappeared. No photo. No rating. Just a blank space where Daniel had been. "Is everything okay?" he asked softly. I hadn't realized I'd slowed down. "Yeah," I muttered. "The app's acting weird." He leaned forward slightly. "You shouldn't look at your phone while driving." His voice was closer now. Too close. I could feel his breath near my ear. But when I looked in the mirror, he was still sitting back in his seat. That's when I heard it. A faint clicking sound. Behind me, like a seatbelt unfastening. I hadn't heard him move. I hadn't heard the fabric shift. Nothing. But the sound was clear. Click. I glanced down at the passenger indicator light on my dashboard. It was off, as if no one was sitting back there at all. My hands went cold. I slowly turned my head. The back seat was empty. Completely empty. The hoodie. The man. Gone. The car was still moving. The doors were still locked. And I was absolutely certain I had not stopped. I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded slightly on the damp road before stopping in the middle of the river stretch. My breathing was out of control. I twisted around fully. The back seat was empty. No open doors. No sound of anyone running. Just trees. Darkness. The faint smell of river water. This isn't real, I whispered to myself. My phone rang. The Uber trip was still active, but the rider's name now said, no passenger. I answered without thinking. There was no greeting, just the sound of wind, then footsteps, crunching on gravel, right outside my car. My entire body locked up. Slowly, deliberately, something scraped along the side of my vehicle. From the back bumper, to the rear door, to my window. I couldn't move. Then I saw it, in the driver's side mirror. A figure standing directly behind my car. Gray hoodie, head tilted slightly. Too tall, too still. The face was dark, but I could see the smile. Wide now. Unnatural. My phone speaker crackled. You weren't supposed to look. The back seat light suddenly flicked on. I gasped and spun around. He was sitting there again, right behind me, close enough that I could see his reflection in my eyes. I screamed and threw the car into drive, flooring the gas without checking the road. The car lurched forward violently. When I dared to look in the mirror again, the back seat was empty, but the passenger seatbelt was slowly retracting. As if someone had just unbuckled it, I drove straight to the nearest police station. I didn't care about traffic laws. I didn't care about tickets. I ran inside and told them everything. They checked my car, checked the back seat, the trunk, the road near the river. Nothing. No footprints. No scratches on the car. No record of any passenger named Daniel requesting a ride from the airport that night. According to Uber's system, I had been driving alone for the past 40 minutes. No active trip. No pickup. No destination. Just me. They suggested I was tired. Overworked. Maybe stressed. Maybe. But I know what I saw. I know someone sat in my back seat. And I know he smiled at me. I don't drive near the river anymore. I don't accept airport rides after midnight. And sometimes, when I'm alone in my parked car, engine off, completely still, I hear it. A soft click behind me, like a seatbelt unlocking. And even when the back seat is empty, the passenger indicator light flickers on. I had just started my new job as a delivery driver for a small courier company. The money wasn't great, but the hours were flexible, and I liked the idea of driving around the city instead of sitting in an office all day. That morning, I left my apartment around 6 a.m. The air smelled faintly of wet asphalt and breakfast from nearby cafes. The streets were quiet. Only a few joggers passed by, headphones in, nodding along to their music. The city felt calm, peaceful, like it was holding its breath. My car was clean, windows down just a little to let in the early sunlight. I had my thermos of coffee in the cup holder, playlists ready on shuffle. Everything felt normal. The first deliveries were easy. Envelopes to small offices, packages to apartment buildings. People greeted me politely. Nothing unusual. Then I got a delivery request to a house I hadn't visited before. A suburban street on the edge of the city, lined with tall hedges and empty sidewalks. The address looked normal in the app, but something about it made me hesitate for a second. Still, I shrugged it off. I'd been nervous plenty of times during my first week. It was just another delivery. I pulled into the driveway. The house looked empty. Curtains drawn, a single car parked to the side. Nothing seemed out of place. I grabbed the package and walked to the door, feeling the quiet air press down on me. Nothing about this delivery should have felt wrong. But the moment I knocked, something inside me shifted. A strange, uneasy feeling I couldn't explain settled in my chest. The door creaked open slowly. No one was visible. I called out, "Hello? Delivery for Mr. Daniels." Nothing. The house smelled faintly of damp wood and cleaning products. It should have been normal, but it made my stomach twist. I stepped inside. The floorboards groaned under my weight. My eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through closed curtains. The furniture looked normal, but slightly off. Chairs not quite aligned. A cup on the counter that looked like it had been moved recently. I felt a soft click behind me. I froze. Turning slowly, I saw nothing. Maybe the door shifted. Maybe it was the wind. I told myself I was imagining things. I set the package down and stepped back toward the door. Then I heard it again, a faint whisper, almost too quiet to catch. "I see you." I spun around. The hallway was empty. My heartbeat sped up. My palms were sweaty. I wanted to run, but I didn't want to leave the package unattended. I picked it up, trying to convince myself it was a prank or a neighbor's joke. Then a shadow flickered across the living room. Quick. I ducked behind the couch instinctively. The house was silent again. I tried my phone. No signal. I felt completely isolated. Alone. Trapped. I debated leaving, but then I realized something. The door I had entered through was now slightly ajar, even though I had closed it. And then I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Heavy. I wasn't supposed to be here. And whoever, or whatever, was upstairs knew I was. I froze, pressed against the couch, my breath caught in my throat. The footsteps upstairs didn't stop. They moved slowly, deliberately, almost as if the person knew exactly where I was hiding. My phone was dead. No signal. No way to call for help. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was the previous tenant's creaky floors. Maybe the neighbors had come over. Anything to convince myself I wasn't alone. Then I heard it, a soft, low hum. A voice. It whispered my name. "Alex." I jolted. My heart pounded, so hard it felt like it would break my chest. I scrambled toward the door, careful not to make a sound. But the hallway stretched longer than it should. Shadows seemed to twist along the walls. I paused at the bottom of the staircase. The air felt colder, heavier. The hum grew louder, echoing in the empty house. I could feel someone watching me. I debated running back to the front door. But the door wasn't just ajar anymore. It was closed, locked. I hadn't touched it. Another step. Another whisper. "I see you." I bolted. Up the stairs. My hands trembling, I gripped the railing, trying to stay silent. But my foot hit a loose board. It creaked. The sound was deafening. A shadow moved across the wall above me, tall, slow, impossibly silent. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The package fell from my hands. I glanced back. Nothing. Just the dim hallway behind me. Very close. Then I heard breathing. I spun around. No one. But the whisper returned, right behind me. "I've been waiting." Panic overtook reason. I stumbled down the stairs, grabbed the package, and ran for the front door. When I yanked it open, the porch was empty. No cars. No neighbors. No hint that anyone had been watching me. Just the stillness of the morning. But I knew. I wasn't alone. And whatever had been in that house was still inside. I stumbled onto the porch, gasping for air, holding the package like it could protect me. The street was quiet. Empty. Sunlight was beginning to touch the rooftops of the neighboring houses, but the house I had just left seemed darker somehow, like a shadow clung to it. I turned back for one last look. The front door was wide open. I had closed it when I left. A figure appeared in the doorway. Tall, thin, shrouded in shadow. No face, just darkness where it should have been. I froze. My legs refused to move. The figure took a step forward, slow, purposeful. "I've been waiting for you," it said, in a voice that wasn't human. Hollow, echoing. I dropped the package. It hit the ground with a dull thud. Something cold brushed my arm, too fast to see, like a shadow sliding across my skin. I screamed and ran down the street, not daring to look back. The air felt heavy behind me, like it was pressing on my shoulders. Then a hand, cold, dry, and impossibly fast, grasped my ankle. I tripped, falling hard onto the pavement. I scrambled to my feet and kept running, heart hammering in my ears. When I finally reached the main road, traffic and sunlight gave me a false sense of safety. I dared to glance back. The house stood silent, normal. Empty. No sign of the figure. But the door still slightly ajar. And for a brief moment, in the shadowed doorway, I thought I saw movement, just a hint of a silhouette watching. I didn't stop running until I was blocks away. And even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was following me. I never returned to that street. Not the house. Not the neighborhood. Not even deliveries in that area. When I told my supervisor about what happened, he laughed it off. "Old houses make noises," he said. "You're imagining things. But I know what I saw. I know the way the shadow moved. The cold that pressed against my skin. The voice that wasn't human. I quit the delivery job a week later. I told friends a vague story about a creepy house and overactive imagination. But at night, when my apartment is quiet, I still see it. A dark figure in the corner of my vision. Just standing. Watching. Waiting. Sometimes I swear I hear the whisper again. Alex. I check the locks twice. 3 times. I make sure every window is closed. Still I feel it. The feeling of being watched. Followed. Targeted. I've moved apartments. Changed neighborhoods. Even avoided driving through that part of the city altogether. And yet, every time I see a house with the same tall, narrow shape, or a darkened doorway, I pause. I can't shake the thought that it's still out there, waiting, and that one day it might come for me again. Even now, sunlight or not, I can't fully feel safe, because I know the shadow doesn't belong to this world. And I know, I may never escape it. I usually work late shifts at the grocery store. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Most nights, the store is quiet. The fluorescent lights hum softly, and the aisles smell like cleaning products mixed with fresh produce. That night, I finished my shift around 11:30 p.m. I grabbed my coat and keys, ready to head home. My car was parked under a flickering streetlight in the empty lot behind the store. The air was chilly, carrying the faint scent of wet leaves. I had just unlocked the car when my phone buzzed with a notification. A ride request from Uber. It was unusual. Most people aren't calling for rides that late from this area. But I was tired of waiting around and figured one last ride could help me make a few extra dollars. The pickup location was nearby, a quiet suburban street I'd driven past countless times. Nothing looked unusual on the app. The name of the rider, Mia. 5 stars. New account. I drove slowly to the address. The street was lined with small houses, all dark except for a few faint lights. The sidewalks were empty. The only sound was the wind rustling the trees. I pulled up to the house. Mia was already outside, standing near the curb. She looked young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a long coat and holding a small bag. Her face was partially hidden by her hood, but she smiled when she saw me. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. Her voice was calm, almost too calm for that late hour. I didn't know it then, but this ride would be nothing like the others. By the time I reached her destination, I would question everything I thought I knew about safety. At first, the ride felt completely normal. She didn't speak much, just the occasional thank you, or turn here. The streets were quiet, the glow of streetlights reflecting off wet asphalt. I tried to keep my mind on the road, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. After about 10 minutes, she suddenly asked me to take a different route. Not the fastest way. Not even the route the app suggested. "I don't like main roads at night," she said softly. I hesitated but complied. The city streets gave way to narrower roads. Few houses. Fewer lights. Trees lined the sides, their branches scraping against the car. The air grew colder, heavier, carrying a faint metallic scent I couldn't place. Then the app glitched. The destination disappeared. Only her name remained. "Is everything okay?" I asked. She looked at me through the rearview mirror, her eyes dark and unreadable. "Yes," she said calmly. "Just follow my directions." My unease grew. The GPS tried to reroute me, but she corrected every turn. Left. Right. U-turn. Left again. Each turn felt unnecessary. Each turn brought us deeper into streets I didn't recognize. I started noticing small things. Broken street signs. Houses that looked abandoned. Windows dark, curtains torn. Trash scattered across the sidewalks. Then I heard it. A sound behind the car. Soft at first. Like footsteps. Then louder. Crunching gravel. I glanced at the rearview mirror. Nothing. My hands tightened around the wheel. Another sound. Scraping. Slow. Deliberate. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination. That the quiet streets at night can play tricks on you. But the feeling didn't leave. It was the sense of being watched. And then I saw movement. A shadow flickered across the back seat. I slammed on the brakes, my heart hammering. The car rocked slightly. I leaned forward, peering into the mirror. The back seat was empty, but the sensation lingered. Someone or something was inside my car, and I couldn't see it. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The car was silent, yet I could feel a presence pressing down on me. I dared not glance at the back seat again. My phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. "Don't stop." I swallowed hard. My heart raced. I wasn't imagining this. I was trapped in my own car. I tried to rationalize. Maybe a prank. Maybe some glitch in the app. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. We continued down narrow streets. The trees closed in overhead, their branches like fingers scraping the roof of my car. The GPS flickered, then froze. The screen went black. I reached to restart it. Another text. Look in the mirror. I forced myself to glance. Nothing. Then I noticed just my own reflection, shadow behind my head. Too dark to belong to my seat. Too still to be natural. I froze. It didn't move. It didn't need to. I felt its presence pressing against my mind, cold and suffocating. I tried to speak. My voice came out hoarse. Who's there? No answer. Another text appeared. I'm right behind you. Panic took over. My foot slammed on the gas. The shadow shifted. Closer. I hit another turn, trying to escape. The backseat light flickered on by itself. I yelped and twisted around. Empty. The car doors were locked. My mirrors showed only the dark streets, empty houses, and swaying trees. But I knew. It was still there. Watching. Waiting. And I had no idea how to get away from it. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly on the damp asphalt. My heart pounded so hard it echoed in my ears. I twisted around in my seat. The back seat was empty, but the feeling didn't leave. Then I saw it in the rearview mirror, a dark shape in the corner of my vision. Just for a moment, I jerked my head. Nothing. The air inside the car grew cold, as if someone had opened a freezer. My hands shook uncontrollably. I tried to start the car again, but the ignition refused. The shadow shifted. I realized I could hear faint breathing, soft, deliberate, coming from behind me. I tried the locks. Click, click, click. Locked. It didn't matter. A hand, cold and heavy, landed on the seat behind me. I screamed and pushed forward. The car lurched as I hit the gas. The hand slipped off, but the weight lingered in my chest. The GPS flickered back on. Destination unknown. I glanced down. Another text. I told you not to stop. I looked in the mirror. The back seat was empty again. No shadow. No hand. But I could still feel it. Pressing. Watching. Waiting. I floored the gas, tires screeching, as the streets twisted around me. And then I realized I had no idea where I was. The neighborhood was unfamiliar. The houses were dark. The streetlights flickered. Every turn I took seemed to loop back to the same stretch of road. And in the distance, I could see it. A figure. Tall. Silent. Standing in the middle of the road, blocking my escape. And for the first time, I understood. It wasn't going to let me go. I don't remember how I finally escaped. I must have taken a wrong turn, or maybe it let me go. I ended up back on a main road, headlights illuminating familiar streets. My car was trembling, my hands slick with sweat. The back seat was empty. The doors locked. The shadow is gone. I pulled into a 24-hour diner and sat for what felt like hours, drinking coffee I couldn't taste. My phone buzzed endlessly, notifications, messages, nothing from anyone I knew. The Uber trip never ended. Even after I closed the app, it still said the ride was active. I reported the account, the strange route, the texts. Uber told me there was no record of the ride, no account named Mia, no GPS anomalies. I drove home slowly, checking my mirrors constantly. Since that night, I haven't taken a single ride past midnight. I avoid dark, empty streets. I changed my work shifts, but the feeling hasn't left. Sometimes when I park my car at night and the engine is off, I see movement in the rearview mirror, a flicker of shadow that disappears when I blink. And sometimes, I hear my phone vibrate. No ringtone, no message, just a screen lighting up with a single notification. A ride request, from Mia, destination unknown. And I know if I accept, it will start all over again. Because whatever I encountered that night isn't bound by streets, by cars, or by rules. It waits, always waits, and I don't think it will ever stop. I've been driving for Uber for over 4 years now. Some nights are calm, some nights are chaotic, but usually nothing truly scares me. Until that night. It started like any other Thursday. I filled up my gas tank, grabbed a coffee, and cleaned out my car. The streets were quiet, wet from an earlier drizzle. Street lights reflected on the asphalt, and the air smelled faintly of rain and exhaust. Most of my rides that evening were normal. Office workers heading home, college students laughing in the back seat, a couple arguing quietly about bills. Nothing unusual. Safe. Predictable. Around 11:30 p.m., I got a ride request from a passenger named Tom. 5-star rating, new account, no profile picture. The pickup was in a part of the city I rarely drive to, a residential area with narrow streets and older houses. When I pulled up, no one was outside. I tapped, "I'm here." The app said he was approaching. Minutes passed. Nothing. I double-checked the address. Correct. I glanced around. Empty street. No movement. Just the hum of my engine and the faint drip of water from the eaves. Then my phone buzzed. A message from the rider. "I'm right behind you." I looked in the rearview mirror. Empty back seat. Empty street. I laughed nervously, muttering to myself, thinking it was a mistake. But that laugh died in my throat the moment I noticed the shadow. A dark figure standing in the reflection of my rearview mirror. Motionless, silent, impossible to place outside my car. I had no idea that the next hour would turn into the most terrifying experience of my life. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light. Streetlights flickering, reflections from wet asphalt, my own shadow stretching across the back seat. I took a deep breath, shaking my head. "Relax," I muttered. "It's nothing." I started the ride. The app showed the destination, a quiet street near the outskirts of the city. But the further I drove, the more uneasy I felt. The streets became narrower. Houses were older, some abandoned. Windows dark. Fences broken. Trees leaned low over the road, their branches scraping the roof. Then I noticed it. A figure following me in the rearview mirror. Not in another car. Not walking on the sidewalk. Just appearing behind my car for brief flashes. I blinked. Nothing. I blinked again. There it was. I tried calling the passenger through the app. No answer. The GPS started to glitch. The route changed without input. My hands shook. I gripped the wheel harder. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe a prankster. Maybe someone is messing with the app. But then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop looking behind you." I froze. Another message. "You're too close." The figure in the mirror moved closer. I slammed my foot on the brakes. Tires screeched on wet asphalt. The shadow didn't disappear. It wasn't outside the car anymore. It was inside. A cold pressure pressed against the back of my seat. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror. The back seat light flickered. Empty. My pulse raced. I had to escape. I tried to speed up, but the shadow seemed to stretch, looming in the mirror no matter how fast I drove. Then a whisper. Soft. Almost playful. "You can't leave yet." I swallowed hard. My knuckles white, my heart hammering. For the first time in 4 years of driving, I realized this wasn't a passenger prank, or a glitch, or even a robbery attempt. This was something else. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. And it was inside my car. Watching me. Waiting. I couldn't breathe properly. My hands shook as I gripped the wheel. Every instinct screamed at me to get out, to stop the car, to run. But the streets were empty, dark, and twisting. Moments, I could see the rearview mirror, a tall figure, dark and shadowed, crouched slightly, head tilted, watching me. Not just behind me, but inside me, in some impossible way. I tried to call Uber support. The app wouldn't open. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Another message. "Don't stop." Not yet. The words burned into my mind. I glanced at the back seat. Empty. I looked in the mirror. Empty. Yet I could feel it. Cold. Pressing. Close enough that I imagined I could hear it breathing. Every instinct I had screamed, "Run." I took a sharp turn onto a narrow side street, hoping to lose it. It mirrored me. Every movement, every turn, like it knew the streets better than I did. The air grew thick. My breath fogged inside the car. Then I saw it move, a shadow stretching across the rear window. I yelped, hitting the brakes. The car jerked violently. The shadow vanished. For a moment, relief. Then I felt a hand, or something like a hand, tap my shoulder from behind. I spun around. Empty back seat. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the sound of the city. Another text. "You can't escape me." I floored the gas, tires screeching on wet asphalt. The streets twisted endlessly. The shadow appeared again in the mirror. Closer. Taller. Smiling. And that's when I realized. I wasn't just being followed. I wasn't being watched. I was trapped. Inside my own car. With something that didn't belong in this world. I slammed on the brakes. The tires skidded on the slick road, water spraying along the asphalt. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The rearview mirror glowed faintly in the streetlight, and I saw it. Tall, dark, impossibly still, looming right behind me. It wasn't human. Not really. Its shape shifted, like shadows folding in on themselves. I fumbled for the locks. Click. Locked. The air inside the car grew cold, sharp as ice. My breath fogged in front of my face. A whisper came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Stay. I yelped and slammed the gas, but the streets seemed to loop back on themselves. Every turn, every alley, led me deeper into the darkness. The backseat light flickered on. My reflection showed the shadow crouched there, smiling. I screamed. Something slammed into the car from behind. The trunk shook. My tires skidded on wet asphalt. I tried to look back. Empty. But the presence didn't leave. The shadows stretched across the seats, across the dashboard, across the entire interior, moving closer, pressing in. I realized then I couldn't escape by driving faster. It wasn't bound by the streets, the city, or reality as I knew it. It was inside the car. Inside me. Watching. Waiting. The GPS flickered one last time. Destination unknown. I slammed my eyes shut, gripping the wheel, praying I'd wake up. When I dared to open them, the back seat was empty. But I could still feel it. Pressing. Waiting. Smiling. I drove straight home without stopping. Every streetlight, every shadow felt like it was watching me. When I reached my apartment, I didn't turn off the car right away. I sat there, heart racing, staring at the empty back seat. The Uber app still showed the ride as active. No destination. No passenger. Just my name, my car, and a blinking notification I couldn't clear. I reported it, hoping for some logical explanation. They told me there was no record of a ride, no passenger named Tom, nothing unusual. But I know what I felt. I know what I saw. And I know what followed me. Since that night, I haven't taken rides past midnight. I avoid streets with dim lights or empty houses. I sleep with every door locked, lights on, blinds closed. Sometimes, when the apartment is quiet, I feel it again. A cold pressure at the back of the car, even when I'm parked safely in my garage. Sometimes my phone vibrates. No ringtone, no message, just a notification. I don't look anymore. I don't check the back seat. Because I know it's still there. Waiting. And I know one day if I let my guard down, it will take me. I'm not sure if it's a passenger, a spirit, or something else entirely. All I know is that driving at night will never feel safe again. And even in the daylight, I can't shake the feeling that I'm still being watched. The ride never ends. And maybe it never will.